And if we get policy right, and I can assure you we will, the inflation surge of the last 5 years will be a thing of the past. Just a month ago, I chaired my very first meeting of the FOMC. My colleagues and I recognize that high inflation has been an undue burden on American households and businesses. And while monthly price volatilities and variations are inevitable, especially in an unsettled world, underlying inflation over longer time horizons is determined largely by monetary policy. As the chairman said at the outset, inflation's a choice.
Well, that was newly minted Fed Chairman Kevin Warsh a little earlier today on Capitol Hill. And as you heard, he's of the mind that inflation is a choice and that he, as Fed Chairman, can now keep that inflation down. But much of the inflation today is being caused by the war in the Middle East. Of course, President Trump inherited a very bad situation with inflation when he took office for the second term. But then, the president did recently restart the war with Iran. And while Warsh testified today that investor confidence is high, multiple financial news outlets are reporting that there's a general loss of confidence among the investor class in the U.S. because of the way the war is unfolding. And now that the Houthis of Yemen have declared their intention to enter the war on Iran's side, and they've already commenced attacks against nearby Saudi Arabia, how long before the Houthis disrupt global shipping and energy production even more than the Iranians have disrupted them already in this war? To help us answer those questions and walk us through some of Warsh's testimony is Dan Collins. He has many decades of experience in high-end manufacturing overseas, and he's also the host of Chaos Inc., which is a podcast available on YouTube. It's good to see you, Dan. I'm glad you could join us on the day that Warsh was testifying. What do you make of that? What do you make of him saying inflation is a choice?
He's got the right idea in that it is a sea change from previous Fed chairs where they didn't believe inflation was caused by money printing. He knows that inflation is always caused by money printing. It's too much money chasing too few goods. That's the economic definition of it. However, it would be a fool's errand to believe that you can control inflation. You can try to control it, but when the inflation genie is left out of the bottle, it completely decimates economies. And I think most Americans no longer believe Fed statistics on inflation. Year over year, we get 1%, 2%, 1.5%. And meanwhile, we're looking at ground beef and it's over $7 a pound. So there's a lot of disconnects, I think, between official statistics across.
Oh, I think you froze there just for a moment, but fortunately we have you back, Dan. Yeah, so you're right. It was probably a choice a while ago, right? Like you said, with the printing of money. Yes. But once it gets on the runaway train, it's hard to slow that train down. What can they do? I mean, how can they kind of get a handle on this inflation?
You've got to slow down government spending. We're still deficit spending. We'll be close to $2 trillion in debt this year. Pre-COVID, we spent about $4.5 trillion a year. This year, we'll be close to $8 trillion. So it's doubled. Government spending has doubled. We don't have a tax problem in the country. We have a spending problem. So they have to get realistic on spending. And none of this, taking military budget up to $1.5 trillion from $1 trillion. It's just crazy. Like the increase alone is more than everyone else's military budget combined in the world. So they have to get government spending under control if you really want to control inflation and get back to productivity improvements, real investment, real factories in the United States. I see an absolute crisis coming with the oil situation. We've quietly been bleeding off the oil reserves for the last couple months now, and those are going to run out in the next couple of weeks. So none of that is going to help slow down inflation. It's only going to increase it.
It doesn't look like we're going to stop spending anytime soon. You noted that there's the oil price situation. There'd been a decrease. It looks like it's going to spike again. There's also the threat of, I know you heard me mention the Houthis in the situation there, and probably that's not really a part of the mainstream conversation right now. This is if you're very in the weeds watching the situation develop in the Iranian conflict, you caught wind of this, but it is just a newly developing situation. There is some threat, according to some analysts, that the Houthis might even close down another strait, right? So while Trump is saying he's getting the situation worked out in the Strait of Hormuz, the Houthis are looking to possibly choke off another strait. What would that do to us?
Well, yeah, and Hormuz is closed. The other strait could get closed, and it just completely blocks the whole global supply chain going from Asia through Europe. All the oil coming out takes roughly 30% of global energy offline globally. It's been off for months. We've been bleeding dry the strategic petroleum reserves. China is going to come back in the market buying again. They have 1 billion barrels of oil reserve. They've been bleeding some of that off. They're going to go back in the market to buy. So, you're going to see energy prices. A lot of people forecasted we'd eventually be $200 for a barrel of oil. I still see that coming at some point when the tanks run dry. So that's where we're going to be. That'll bleed into every type of product in the United States.
So, yeah. Kevin Warsh, if you listen to him today, and he was talking about the prognosis for the economy, right? Of course, they say investor confidence is high. It's obviously not as high this week as it was maybe a couple of weeks ago. We've seen a downtrend in the market because of the back and forth on the Iran deal, we think. But he suggests that it is going to be artificial intelligence investment that will essentially save our economy. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about that.
At the Fed, we don't yet know fully the extent to which the economy will benefit from AI. Yet it seems inevitable that that which we're now calling AI investment will soon just be called investment. Even so, new opportunities for the economy introduce new challenges for central bankers. We at the Fed are monitoring the implications for employment and for inflation.
Now, I actually just talked about this a little bit with Ed Dowd yesterday. He's not so confident about the AI bubble that he says is soon to burst and that it's not going to be what saves the economy. How do you feel about artificial intelligence investment?
So AI capital spending this year in the United States will be almost $1 trillion. It is the economy. It's absolutely massive. However, we've already gone through that. That's basically saved the economy the last couple of years. Large company, I have an AI company called Vestigia Labs. So I'm a big believer in the technology itself, but it's just like the internet 20, 30 years ago as it came on the scene. It can have great long-term positive benefits, but you can get collapses because of overinvestments. So a lot of big companies are scaling back on the AI token usage now. That could bleed into people pulling back on capital expenditure. Warsh is correct that we don't see all the benefits that AI could bring. We don't know what in general intelligence across our economies, how that's going to bleed into general productivity benefits. You've got humanoid robotics that is a boom now. Their hands are working. That I monitor a firm in China. They've got them in the plants now working in the EV factories. This is going to revolutionize productivity and how much can be produced at lower cost rates, kind of creating a general prosperity. But you're going to get booms and busts. And as human beings, we all suffer from overinvestment, speculative asset, people rush in and then it booms and then recovers. But yeah, it's we have to look beyond artificial intelligence. We have to look at more base manufacturing investment. But it could pop at any time. It's been going on for a couple of years now. There's a lot of way overinvestment in AI right now, most likely.
I've had a lot of friends make a lot of money. I won't lie, though, the humanoid robot thing really freaks me out. I would be conflicted about investing in that. I find them very, very creepy. Dan Collins, good to see you. Thank you, sir. You can catch him on the Chaos Inc. podcast on YouTube. Thanks.